Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live on the Black Star Network. Maryland rescuers continue to search for missing workers after the Baltimore bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, collapsed early this morning. We will break down exactly what happened there, where 6 workers are presumed dead. The U.S. Supreme Court heard a challenge to the Food and Drug Administration's regulation of what is called the abortion pill. Well, we'll talk about that and what happened in court. Also, we continue our focus on Tennessee State. Tonight, we'll talk with the Student Government Association president at TSU to talk about how what's happening in the legislature is impacting the student body. The cowardly white Georgia man who gunned down Ahmaud Arbery are heading to court Wednesday to ask that their hate crimes convictions be thrown out. We'll be joined by the NAACP President of Atlanta. Also, the Black Kansas man who was misidentified as a mass shooter is suing Tennessee Congressman who plastered his photo all on social media. And Deion Sanders says athletes should be able to choose what city and team they go to. I concur. In our Marketplace segment, a hip-hop twist on Charades. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the This is very much still a search and rescue mission. We are still actively looking for survivors. We know, and that's the pledge we've made to these families, and this is still very much an active search and rescue mission. And there is not a single resource that we will hold off on deploying. I have already authorized the deployment of everything from air, land, and sea resources to make sure that this search and rescue operation is carried out to its fullest intent. The second thing I want to remind people is that this will not be short. There's going to be a long road. There's going to be a long road, not just as we go from search and rescue. There'll be a long road as we talk about what does the future of this region, the future of the area look like. And we're going to need each and every one of you.
Folks, that was Maryland Governor Wes Moore discussing the tragic circumstances that took place early this morning when a massive ship lost power and slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Now, because the ship lost power, you'll see here as it approaches the bridge, and then it runs into, you see the lights out and they come back on, it slams into the bridge, and a significant portion of this bridge actually collapsed. You see the cars going by because they sent a distress signal to folks there. That's how they were able to stop folks from being able to cross the bridge. At the time, apparently there were about 20 cars and rescue workers who were on the bridge. So if you roll the video back, what you'll see is you'll see flashing lights of various crews who were, and so this is actually what you're seeing right now is actually sped up. So you see cars that are going by, and then all of a sudden, so you see that, and all of a sudden, but you do see emergency vehicles that are on that bridge. And so again, cars were traveling on that bridge. And then again, this is actually a time-lapse video. And so there's other video that shows you in real time exactly what happened with the Francis Scott Key Bridge. About 6 to 7 people are presumed to be dead as a result. The bridge collapsed. And again, they were on that bridge. The folks were not expecting that to actually happen. You've had all kind of folks out here who have been talking about, different conspiracies, things along those lines. But that's simply, a lot of that stuff is just nonsensical, what you're hearing out there. So this is helicopter video today of that particular ship. So you see exactly what's happened. And again, it is a tragic situation that took place today in Baltimore. Lots of folks, again, have been talking about what's been going on, been talking about how this has been impacted. Again, the mayor and the governor both have been talking about this situation in terms of its impact. I'm going to show you right now. This is actually not a time lapse, but you're going to see exactly when the ship hits the bridge and the bridge begins to collapse. So guys, go to my iPad, please. And so this is, you see it right here, how that bridge began to come down. So cars had been stopped, and there were emergency cars that were actually still on the bridge, and you saw them there. And they actually collapsed into the water. And so that happened there. Also, earlier today, first of all, the governor was immediately, on the scene. The mayor, I was actually up till about 4 o'clock this morning and actually saw it happen. Saw the video after the fact, and folks began to tweet, began to talk about what began to happen. And here is the mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott. Go ahead.
I think right now, sir, listen, we shouldn't even be having that discussion right now. The discussion right now should be about the people, the souls, the lives that we're trying to save. There will be a time to discuss about a bridge and how we get a bridge back up. But right now, there are people in the water that we have to get out, and that's the only thing we should be talking about.
So what he's referring to, there was a question from one of the reporters about fixing the bridge and how soon is the bridge going to be up. And you hear the mayor there saying that, hey, this is absolutely no time for us to be focusing on that particular aspect. He's absolutely right. Tragic situation here. You've seen folks now talk about what this means in terms of infrastructure in this country, in terms of exactly how things have been handled. This wasn't a case, folks. This was not a case of, a failed infrastructure. This was a perfect example of a bridge being hit. And so, again, so it's interesting how when you see folks talking about this whole thing here and its impact and what actually took place. But, I mean, the reality is it was hit. This is President Joe Biden speaking about the collapse.
In the region. Good afternoon. Before I leave for North Carolina, which I'm going to do in a few minutes, I want to speak briefly about the terrible incident and accident that happened in Baltimore this morning. At about 1:30, container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I've been over many, many times commuting from the state of Delaware, either on a train or by car. I've been in Baltimore Harbor many times. And the bridge collapsed, sending several people and vehicles into the water, into the river. And multiple U.S. Coast Guard units, which are stationed very nearby, thank God, were immediately deployed along with local emergency personnel. And the Coast Guard is leading the response to the port, where representatives from the Federal Highway Administration, the FBI, the Department of Transportation, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Maryland officials and Baltimore Police and Fire, are all working together to coordinate an emergency response. Officials at the scene estimate 8 people were unaccounted for were unaccounted for. That number might change. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition. And the search and rescue operation is continuing for all those remaining as we speak. I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the Mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the Congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together. Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives. And our prayers are with everyone involved in this terrible accident and all the families, especially those waiting for the news of their loved one right now. I know every minute in that circumstance feels like a lifetime. You just don't know. It's just terrible. We're incredibly grateful for the brave rescuers who immediately rushed to the scene and to the people of Baltimore. I want to say, we're with you. We're going to stay with you as long as it takes. And like the governor said, you're Maryland tough, you're Baltimore strong, and we're going to get through this together. And I promise we're not leaving. Here's what's happening now. The search and rescue operation is our top priority. Ship traffic in the Port of Baltimore has been suspended until further notice, and we'll need to clear that channel before the ship traffic can resume. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the spot and is going to help lead this effort to clear the channel. The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs, and I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year, and we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port, and we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland whatever they ask for. We're going to work with our partners in Congress to make sure the state gets the support it needs. It's my intention that federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of them risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open that we got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
I do, and as quickly as I can. That's what
you said the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious. This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you mentioned
that could be, but we're not going to wait for that to happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
What did you make of Israel's decision not to attend this meeting this week?
Oh, I don't want to get into that. We're going to plenty of time to talk about Rafah.
You mentioned the port. Can I ask about cars? About the port.
Again, President Joe Biden speaking earlier today. I'm going to go to my panel right now. This is, again, one of those stories that is, hard to deal with because people, again, right now you got all kind of craziness happening on social media, people with the conspiracy, whatever. But guess what? Accidents literally happen in this country. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA out of D.C., John Quell Neal, trial lawyer at the John Quell Neal firm out of Atlanta, Given Reynolds, contributor at The Root, former speechwriter for Vice President Kamala Harris, joining us from New Haven, Connecticut. I'll start with you, Mustafa. When you serve in government, I mean, listen, what happens here is the Department of Transportation, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, they will on this immediately. You heard the president talk about this here. Look, when you talk about this accident, look, the Baltimore port, that's a huge deal there. And so there's an investigation going on there, but they also recognize the impact, not just on Baltimore, not just on Maryland, but people don't understand when you have ships coming into these ports, you're having goods that are being distributed all across the country and also the world as well. And so that's why we hear the president say, no, we're going to pay for it. We've got to get this thing moving. That's also why the federal government matters, because they move in major disasters like this a lot faster than state and local can.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I appreciate the president making it clear to folks that they're not going to wait for the litigation to play out, which can take some time. The federal government is going to have a whole of government approach to come in and meet the needs of the residents that are there, to one, get things rebuilt, to make sure that we have the food moving and all the other sort of goods that are necessary. You know, I worked a whole lot of both man-made and natural disasters, so I understand these dynamics that are playing out. I was a part of the first responders. You know, the first thing, of course, is making sure that you're saving lives. So when folks go on social media and start, all these stories without any facts, without any engineering backgrounds or backgrounds in emergency response, you're really doing a disservice. You're doing a disservice to the families that are being impacted. You're doing a disservice to the first responders who are trying to do their job. And you're just doing a disservice because you're really just mucking things up when we need to have clarity, when folks need to be able to know what the government is actually doing. So I hope that folks will hold off on that type of stuff. And actually, if you want to do something, you can send prayers, send resources, a number of different things that you can do that can be positive. Because you have the first responders who are diving into cold waters. Right now, everybody is looking to be able to hopefully still find somebody alive. But after that, we have time frames and we have various ways of making the decision when we move to actually, finding the bodies. So families got to heal. So we've got a number of things that we still have to do, and it will be an all-of-government approach in making sure that, the city of Baltimore has what they need. And then, of course, the city of Baltimore and the state will make sure that families have what they need as they go through the healing process and the information that they will need to be able to make whatever final decisions they might want to do. So I hope that folks will just honor the families and honor the process.
Gavin, this is a live look of the Port of Baltimore. There is a camera that is always there, and so this, it was about, again, it was almost 7,000 people watching live around 3:30 this morning. It's about 3,000 watching right now, and so this is a live look, as we speak, and as the governor said, the mayor said, they're still trying to save lives, but the reality is this accident took place about 16 hours ago. So the likelihood of somebody surviving underwater for 16 hours is not plausible. So I understand them saying they're in a rescue mode, but they're likely moving to a recovery mode.
Roland, it certainly seems that way. I mean, let me just first say what a terrible, tragic situation. I wasn't up as late as you were last night, but when I woke up this morning, I was just shocked to see this video on my social media feed. I spent a lot of time, driving between DC and Baltimore, when I was working for the Biden-Harris White House. I have nothing but sympathy for those who, have been involved, their families, and nothing but gratitude for the first responders who, I think it was the mayor or the governor who said, didn't drive away from this situation, but drove, full speed ahead toward it. And let me also say how great it is to see the leadership, obviously President Biden, but also Governor Moore, Mayor Scott. I texted both of them expressing my sympathies. But these are two incredible leaders. And to see, their Black faces up there responding and showing what true leadership looks like. Congressman Mafume there, you could see in the background as well. We didn't see a lot of this under the Trump administration. I don't mean to politicize this, but all I want to say is that I think it's really refreshing to see, in our federalist system, we see the president, who's responding to the situation. We're seeing the governor. We're seeing the local officials on the ground. And that's how government ought to work. And I know this situation had nothing to do with, crumbling infrastructure, but we do know that there are a number of bridges across this country, that are in need of repair. And so I commend, this administration. I was with the vice president when she spoke at the Arlen D. Williams Bridge in Washington, D.C. to wrap up the administration's Investing in America tour. She lauded the $300 million that the administration had invested into repairing bridges across the country. And so I do think that, those are the sorts of investments, again, that wouldn't have necessarily saved lives in this situation, but can certainly save lives in the future for other bridges that are in desperate need of repair. Definitely want to foot stomp what others have said, that we gotta, not subscribe to these conspiracy theories that we're seeing online. It's crucial, that we listen to our leaders at a time like this, and also that we take some time to learn about, what we need to do if we're ever in this situation, right? There are videos out there. The good element of social media right now is that, there are folks circulating, information about, if you're on a bridge and something like this happens and you find yourself in this situation, what can you do in terms of unbuckling your seatbelt, rolling your windows down, helping your kids get out, taking the small children with you? And so it's important that we use this opportunity here to educate ourselves. God forbid this ever happen again, but at least we know what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. But terrible situation, and my thoughts and prayers goes out to all those who are involved and all those who are on the ground responding right now.
John Quell, obviously, when you have these accidents, look, it becomes a legal issue. Is all going to get sorted out, but this company is going to be facing some liability issues in terms of, again, the ship it going out, losing power, but again, causing this accident. And so it's going to be a whole bunch of lawyers involved in this thing, and I'm sure they already are busy. Not only lawsuits from families of those who have perished, but also from the city, from the state, and the federal government.
You're absolutely right. And as it relates to the question that was, well, first I want to say that my heart goes out to the families that have been impacted by this catastrophe. And also my heart goes out to the families who still have family members that are unaccounted for. But what I will say is that President Biden is absolutely correct in that the litigation for these cases, just so everyone knows, is going to take years, right? I mean, lawyers, of course, we would be getting involved very boots on the ground very early. However, litigation, and certainly something of this magnitude, is going to take years and years to play out. And in addition to suing the shipping companies, as well as the local governments, and also, for the families that do or will perish as a result of this catastrophe, bringing those wrongful death suits and just holding them accountable. These kind of accidents do happen, but there's nothing that can replace the loss of life.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue to cover this and give you more details. Folks, coming up next, Tennessee State University students are putting pressure on the Republican-controlled legislature to stop them from gutting their board of trustees. We'll talk to the student government president next. Also, Diddy's attorney responds to yesterday's raid on his homes in L.A. and Miami. We'll show you exactly what he had to say as well. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. People can't live with them, can't live without them. Our relationships often have more ups and downs than a boardwalk roller coaster, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Trust your gut. Whenever your gut is like, this isn't healthy, this isn't right, I don't like the way that I'm being treated. This goes for males and females. Trust your gut, and then whenever that gut feeling comes, have a conversation.
Knowing how to grow or when to go. A step-by-step guide on a next, A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
I'm ready. Folks, on Thursday, the Tennessee legislature, the House, is going to take up a bill that could impact the makeup of the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. The Senate last week passed a bill getting rid of the entire board, yet the House bill could very well change. That could be anywhere from the governor appoints 3 to 4 of those members. Well, as a result, you are seeing so many people involved in this, students, alumni, faculty, others, are all focused on what is going on here, trying to make it clear that the state's only public HBCU must be better served by the legislature. Now, keep in mind, a couple of years ago, it was announced that the state had underfunded Tennessee State to the tune of $500 million. Well, Tennessee State has had an explosion of a student population over the past several years. When Tennessee State began to ask for half of that money, all of a sudden, the state began to ask different questions. And they weren't concerned about these issues before they asked for that money. Now you have President Glenda Glover, who's already announced her retirement. The board is in the midst of finding a new president. Now they're talking about getting rid of the whole board. Darrell Taylor is the president of the Student Government Association, Tennessee State University. He joins us right now. Glad to have you on the show, Darrell. So this has been, in many ways, a group effort. You've had state senators, House members, students, faculty, alumni, other groups. So a lot of people have been involved in raising the awareness of what's been going on here at Tennessee State. This effort to get rid of the board is the latest issue. So it's been one thing after another, really over the past 15 months.
Yes, it certainly has. And it's an issue that we're really working to ensure that we're united upon. And that's something that, we can attest to. We have had several different stakeholders of the universities, students, the administrators, even parents, faculty and staff, alumni, because this matters to everyone who is affected by the university. And we're not understanding why this issue has spread it out so long when, the truth is the truth, the history, and the numbers are the numbers.
Talk about what are you hearing from your colleagues? What are you hearing from other students? What concerns are they are expressing with the constant attacks on Tennessee state leadership by Republicans in the legislature?
Well, before I continue, I would definitely like to thank you so much for inviting me here. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about the issues surrounding my university. That is the first step. And, you asked what students are looking for and what's concerning the students, what's at the top of their mind. And honestly, it's having a voice. I do believe that it's pretty easy for people to make decisions for students or on behalf of the students, but not necessarily with the students or along with the students. And I think that's something that we desire a little bit more, because the more we have a voice at the table, the more we have an understanding of how we can play a part in resolving this issue on both ends. We want our university to maintain the best branding possible, and we feel that the several attacks towards our university continue to not to help our university not look in the best light. And we've done so many transformational things over the past few years, and we don't like the hits that are continuously being given to our university. So we want to have a little bit more of a voice, and things of this nature, being able to speak publicly about how we feel, that's what matters, and that's the opportunity that we have to express our feelings about this situation.
Let's be clear, the students, they have representation on the Board of Trustees. There's a student trustee, there's a faculty representative as well. When you look at this decision to say, hey, the governor should appoint all 8 members, look, we see what's going on in Tennessee, and for a lot of alumni and students of Tennessee State, they don't think that's appropriate, considering how the university, frankly, has been ignored by state lawmakers for so long.
And that's totally correct, and as this issue continues to unfold, we constantly wonder, okay, why haven't the legislators reached out to us? Why haven't they inquired, visits to campus or actually an understanding of what the student experience looks like? And if we don't see representation now of our university at the state level, then we're not going to see it in a few months. And I think it's very important. I'm glad you mentioned our student representative, because I work very close with the student representative. And as leaders of student government, we're able to constantly serve as the liaisons of what the students are feeling, how the students are moving, and what are the top priorities. And without us having those opportunities to essentially network or have a relationship with our board, you essentially you take away the power from the students. And this is the same for faculty and staff and their representation on the board. I think it matters for us to decide who governs us. It allows us to have a more fluent way of communication and running the university. And we don't feel that it makes a lot of sense to us that we have people governing our institution who we have no idea, who they are, what they represent, or what their priorities could be.
This here is the current Board of Trustees. You see Dr. Deborah Cole, Stephen Corbell, Van Pinnock, Dr. Richard Lewis, Pam Martin, Obi McKenzie, Andre Johnson, Dr. Joseph Walker, and the faculty trustee is Dr. William Johnson. Sean Wimberly is the student trustee. And so those are the 10 members of the Board of Trustees. And again, what the Senate what they would do is the governor would appoint 8 of those folks there. One of the things that is happening, we're going to actually be in Nashville on Monday. There's going to be a news conference taking place at 11 a.m. On Monday. You, as well as and other students, have invited us in to participate in this. And the thing here, this here, folks, is the graphic right here that we're going to be distributing. It's really hot off the press. This is taking place at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time in the rotunda of the Tennessee State Legislature. We are going to be live streaming this on the Black Star Network. In addition to that, we're going to be broadcasting live from Tennessee State in a town hall on campus. And so, Darrell, all students and faculty, everybody is welcome to come on out. The community is welcome to come as well. I'm waiting to get from my producer and from TSU the location of that. It's going to be very similar to what we did when we went down to Bethune-Cookman because we want to hear from all the different voices. And like I said, there are a lot of people involved, but I want people to understand this here. And so these are the issues that we're going to be talking about at the news conference and also in our town hall here. Call on Tennessee governor and legislature to stop the unfounded and overreaching attacks on TSU. Go to my iPad. Mobilize alumni and supporters to defend HBCUs. Call on all people of goodwill to challenge attacks by extremists. And so we got to actually I edited this earlier. That still has not been fixed. So extremists will be corrected before we send it out. In state legislatures towards HBCUs around the country. Demand equitable funding after years of underfunding and mobilize voting power to challenge state legislatures. So, Darrell, here's the thing that people don't understand. And that is this issue with Tennessee State is not just about the Board of Trustees. This legislature found $1 billion to give to the Tennessee Titans for a new stadium. Yet they owe Tennessee State $500 million of being underfunded. So to complain about dormitories, to complain about facilities, when you've underfunded the school to the tune of $500 million, that's actually shady and it's a joke. That's one. But the other thing is this here, is that you have land grant institutions. Tennessee State is one of them. And the federal government, based upon data, has shown that land grant HBCUs, frankly, have been cheated out of $13 billion over the past 30 years. So what we're doing on Monday, standing with you and others and with the town hall on Monday, is not just focus on the Board of Trustees and not just focus on Tennessee State, but to get black people to understand this is an attack on all HBCUs nationwide, and this should be a call to arms to HBCU students, alumni, faculty, staff, and black folks at large to understand the battle that we are in. Right.
That's very true. This is an attack on the community as a whole. HBCUs are the nest of the resources that we have in this world. HBCUs are crafting the next generations of students, the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs. And I think it's very important to invest into HBCUs, and to see this happening across the board. It's really disheartening as an HBCU student. Like it's disheartening, and we're looking forward to seeing some specific initiative taken to turn around this, to right these wrongs and to turn around these strategies, because TSU isn't in this alone. There's too many other HBCUs that are facing similar funding disparities, and it does not make any sense. As African Americans, we arrived in this country, we didn't have the ability to read or write at all. Then we gained that right, but not with the amount of resources or with segregation involved. And now, we have full and equal rights, but we still aren't being invested into financially or with resources or just with simple respect and allowing us to have dignity and integrity as a body of students. And I just don't appreciate that. So I'm hoping we can really talk about some things Monday, and we can really get the ball rolling on what our community can do to turn around these disparities.
Questions from my panel. John Quell, you're first for Darrell.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
I was able to read up a bit that there was a housing crisis with some of the students there. What has been, number one, what alumni engagement has been involved in assisting with housing? What are some of the opportunities or things that the university has done to assist with housing? And how, in addition to the forum that is next week, can you get more engagement to assist with this housing crisis for the students?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So very fortunately, our university was pretty quick on resolving the issues around housing. So all of our students are currently good. They're good. They're housed. I would say during that issue, I think HBCUs across the country faced the influx of students just because we are valuing ourselves a little bit more in our community, the need for us to invest into ourselves and to each other. So I think that was something that was across the board as far as the influx of students. But, we work to accommodate with with investing into new off-campus locations. And then, of course, with the growing economy and just the growing rates of inflation within the state of Nashville, it's a little bit harder for college seniors to find housing, or college juniors even. So that's something that our alumni has been kind of bouncing in on, just having opportunities for us to understand how to get into the housing market and make sure that we are able to, have a smooth transition even after we graduate. So we're wanting to make sure that all of our counterparts are tapping into each other so that we are doing the best that we can to remain on one accord, because, we're glad that we've been able to correct some of those things that went wrong with housing, and we want to make sure that we are able to expand so we can accommodate students. And that's back to the funding, right? Because if we were given the proper amount of dollars, maybe we could have initially built more dormitories for students to be housed, and we can continue to grow our enrollment and be able to support so many more students with the TSU experience.
Gavin?
Mr. President, thank you very much for joining us. And also thank you for your leadership. It's really great to see. As you know well, throughout history, young people, especially young Black people, have been responsible for moving our nation forward and pushing our country forward. Right there in Tennessee, folks like John Lewis, Diane Nash, both who attended Fisk, in Nashville, and obviously, right now, the Justins, Justin Pearson, Justin Jefferson, who are doing the same thing. And Roland, quote me, check me here. Dr. Greg Carr, who appears often on this show, I believe was student body president at TSU back in the day. Exactly. And so, Mr. President, I'm curious how you draw inspiration from the rich legacy of the young leaders and young activists who have walked, in the path that you're walking right now. And also, how are you and your other, classmates and fellow leaders taking care of yourselves?
I would say first and foremost, and I appreciate that our history is out there, that, you guys are aware of some of the dynamic and great things that our student leaders have done in the past, and as they continue to advocate post-their enrollment here at TSU. But I will be, completely honest, that has really motivated me. It has really given me the confidence, and it's really allowed me to say, okay, I'm a student and I have the power to speak up for change. And that's something that I wouldn't be able to say I would walk directly into that if I didn't have an example of that, right? And I think that's very important to see people of my color advocating for better resources for our community, because it lets me know that we're not in this alone, and we must be united, and we must stand up and join them. So I want to thank the TSU legacies for standing that standard, and I even want to thank the members of the legislature that are helping represent our community, because that matters, and students need that level of support. And I would say during this time, students are, very confused. They're very lost. We're wondering why these decisions are being made, why so harsh, what do they mean, why is this situation, continuing to drag on and on and on, when as students, we know that we have money that could be pouring into our university that has not been. So I think that's where we're at, and we're wanting to kind of have some stability in how we're dealing with these things. And we want to be able to hear directly from legislatures as far as their tangible plans to enhance our university.
Mustafa?
Brother, I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I have lots of questions for you, but I'm going to just stick with this one. There's an old quote that talks about, it's not the voices of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. I'm curious, which friends are standing up and supporting you? Are our major Black organizations and allies who say they're allies to our community, are they showing up? Do you need more from them, or do you have enough?
I would say Black Voters Matter. I would say we have a Save TSU Community Coalition, and then our chapter of the NAACP. We've been working pretty hard to, remain engaged on this issue. I do want to appreciate, those entities. I definitely say we certainly need more because of how big.
Darrell, when you say our chapter, you mean the campus chapter or the Nashville chapter?
A little bit of both. So our campus chapter is partnering with the Nashville chapter. So, we've been in discussions with them about what we can do to, further assist with this issue. And I would definitely say we've had some friends in the legislature. Senator Ahmaud Arbery, she's been a big help. And we want to make sure that, we're continuously pouring in to different buckets of support systems so that we can maintain that stream of support and we can continue being united as we progress. But I would say when this issue first came along, this is a national crisis, so it should be represented at a national level. And that's something that I've been really intentional on throughout my term as president, which is to make sure that this issue is being escalated further and further. So we certainly need more support. All hands on deck. Anyone who would like to see our HBCUs be supported should be advocating for this issue.
Oh, absolutely. And what we're also seeing is that, again, we're going to be coming in on Monday, but what is happening on Thursday? I understand that that the Equity Alliance, IMF, and some other students are having an action event on Thursday. Can you tell us about that?
Right. So we are planning to sit in the gallery at the House of Representatives floor. So we want to make sure that we are right there, defending our university, speaking on behalf of our university, and hopefully if things go well, we're proud of what we've been able to advocate for at that moment. I would say, and the organizations that you've mentioned, they've also been a huge help to us, and we would definitely want to send them our kudos for that. But yes, Friday we're asking students, family members, community members, faculty and staff, are asking everyone to make sure that they're present to have a seat at the table. Once again, I mean, if we're not given a seat at the table, we must bring our own.
And so do this here, whatever the students are doing Thursday, if y'all are going to be live streaming stuff, certainly let us know so we can cross stream that and push that out to a lot more people as well. And we look forward to, first of all, I want to thank you and thank Sean for extending the invitation for us to come in on Monday. It's always important for national voices to stand with folks on the ground who are already doing the work. And really what it's about is, as you said, is amplifying the work that's already being done to a much broader audience. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And so we're going to be live streaming what takes place at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern on Monday in Nashville at the, again, Tennessee State Capitol in the Rotunda. But on Monday night, we're going to be on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be broadcasting live from the campus of Tennessee State. I'm waiting to find out where we're going to do it. And we certainly want to have those student voices there, sharing their perspective, but also, of course, faculty, staff, and people from the community, because what happens at Tennessee State is not just the campus. It impacts the broader community as well.
It seriously does, and we're glad that we have more and more people willing to support us, because as students it can become really easy to feel alone in things like this, especially we're shaping careers. We're trying to be nurtured and elevated by our university, which we have been. And most importantly, we want to make sure that we graduate with a college degree. We shouldn't have to face so many issues of this sort when doing things like that. And something that I've kind of come into realization during my senior year is really considering some of the sacrifices students make being an HBCU student, because being an HBCU student really does pour into you in so many different ways. So we sacrifice maybe not having the best housing, or maybe not having the best facilities and resources, because we understand that our community isn't as valued. So, it's like a lesser of two, extremes when it becomes on removing our board or not giving us our finances. These are both things that help us flourish despite the disparities that we've already overcome. So I think it's important to have this support, and I appreciate everyone present today on this call, and I'm just very appreciative that we're able to continue escalating this issue to a national platform.
All right, we surely appreciate it. First of all, is it Darrell or Darryl?
It's Darrell.
All right, just making sure, okay? Black folks will spell it Darrell, be like, no, it's Darryl. So we want to make sure there. All right, I understand. Look, I get Ronald. I'm like, dang, Ronald's rolling. So I understand. All right, Darrell, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Thank you so much. Look forward.
All right, thanks a bunch, folks. When we come back, Diddy, his attorney, is speaking out on yesterday's raid at his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. We'll have that next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support us in what we do. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. If you can't give that, look, we totally understand, but if you can give more, that's great as well. That would raise $1 million. That goes a long way for us being able to cover the news that matters to us, for us to speak to the issues. Look, you take what's happening with Tennessee State. I'm telling y'all right now, national media is not talking about that. You're not going to hear Tennessee State talked about on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS. Hell, I don't even know what's being talked about by other black-owned media outlets. Well, we are. And so when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network, you're supporting a black-owned media outlet that cares about the news that impacts our community. Folks who give during the show, I will give a personal shout out. And so you can give, you can send your check and money order. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Terry and I, we couldn't play in the white clubs in Minnesota. It felt like such a, strength through adversity type moment that I think black people just have to go through. We have to figure it out. Right. We make lemons out of lemonade. But there's a reason we rented a ballroom, did our own show, promoted it, got like 1,500 people to come out. Clubs were sitting empty. They were like, "Where's everybody at?" And they said, "They're down watching the band you wouldn't hire." So it taught us not only that we had the talent of musicians, but we also had to have the talent of entrepreneurship. It wasn't like a seat at the table. It's like, no, let's build the table. That's right. We got to build the table. And, that's right. And that was the thing. And of course, after that, we got all kinds of offers. Of course. Right, to come play in the clubs. But we didn't do it. We said,
no, we're good.
No, we're good. We're good. And that's what put us on a path of national. And of course, when Prince made it, then it was like, okay, we see it can be done.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh, and you're watching my brother Roland Martin Unfiltered as we go a little something like this. Hit it. It's real.
Folks, on Wednesday, the three white men who were convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery will be asking the 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals to throw out their hate crime convictions that were returned by a jury in a trial in Brunswick in 2022. Attorneys for father and son Greg and Travis McMichael, as well as their neighbor William Roddy Bryan, say their clients chased Arbery because they mistakenly believed he was a criminal, not because of his race. Travis McMichael's appeal argues a technicality, saying prosecutors failed to prove that Arbery was pursued and killed on public streets, as stated in the indictment used to charge the three men. Prosecutors say it was Arbery's race that influenced the defendants to consider Arbery suspicious. Joining us now is the president, the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP, but also of the Georgia State Conference, Gerald Griggs. Gerald, glad to have you here. First of all, there were state charges as well as federal charges for these white racists. And look, they're trying to get out, but the feds did an excellent job laying this thing out. I doubt they're going to be able to gain any traction with the Court of Appeals.
Yes, we feel the same way, but we want to make sure that we are present to make sure we underscore the feelings of the community here in Georgia about the race, the hate crime conviction, as well as the state crime conviction. And so it's important that we convene tomorrow. There are groups, Black Voters Matter, the Transformative Justice Coalition, and of course the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP, just to name a few, will be present both outside the courthouse and inside the courthouse to make sure that Mr. Arbery is remembered for what happened, but ultimately remembered for the justice that continues to be sought, and his family's looking for 100% justice, and that's what we are calling for tomorrow.
And again, tomorrow they are appealing the federal case.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yeah, just a federal case. And to be clear, we were there for the trial. They presented the racial animus evidence, and it was convincing. Text messages, phone conversations, testimony from other people about situations that involved race for these three defendants, and a jury quickly convicted them on the federal hate crime violation as well as the state level charge.
And so, again, this is taking place tomorrow. What time? And you got a coalition of folks who are going to be there.
Tomorrow at 9 a.m. in front of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. It's at 56 Forsyth Street. We will be there with the family of Ahmaud Arbery and all of the supporters that have been pushing this case from the very beginning. You have to remember, back in February of 2020, it took 74 days for the world to know anything about this case. We want to make sure the family feels supported and the memory of our dear brother Ahmaud continues to live on in justice as we continue to run with Ahmaud.
And folks, remember, it was in August of 2022. Go to my iPad, where a federal judge sentenced them. Travis McMichael was sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years. Gregory McMichael was sentenced to life in prison plus 7 years. And William Roddy Bryan was sentenced to 35 years in prison for committing federal hate crimes and other offenses with the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Gerald, we still appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother.
All right, folks. Diddy's attorney is speaking out after yesterday's raid took place at his homes in Los Angeles as well as Miami. One home in LA, two homes in Miami were raided yesterday. And it was the Homeland Security out of New York that actually executed the warrant with assistance from Homeland Security in Los Angeles and Miami. Well, today, one of Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys, Aaron Dyer, released a statement. This is what he said. It said, "There's no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were treated. Mr. Combs was never detained, but spoke to and cooperated with authorities. Despite media speculation, neither Mr. Combs nor any of his family members have been arrested, nor has their ability to travel been restricted in any way." Video surfaced yesterday of Diddy at a Miami airport, and I was told that he was traveling actually out of the country for spring break with his children. You looked at a lot of different reports. People were saying, oh my God, Diddy is fleeing the country. That's what initially was reported, but that actually wasn't the case. In another aside, TMZ reported today that Diddy had sold his network, Revolt, to an unnamed bidder. Let me see if I can pull this story up. Give me 1 second here. So they pushed that story out, but that actually is not true. My sources tell me, and I've known about this discussion, this sale for the last month. So this is the TMZ story. Diddy lets go of Revolt TV, still black-owned mystery buyer. Well, it says Diddy's no longer associated with Revolt TV in any form or fashion. The company he started in 2013 because it's now completely under new ownership. TMZ, y'all, is wrong. Let me be clear. TMZ is wrong. Okay? There has been no negotiation. There is a deal in place, but multiple sources tell me that the deal has not been finalized. There is more work to be done on this particular deal. And again, I've known about these negotiations for more than a month, so the TMZ report is flat out wrong. Revolt has not been sold. It is still under the ownership of Sean Diddy Combs. Earlier also, there was a conversation, and actually it was yesterday, that I was going back and forth on social media. And there were some folks who were talking about, that black-owned media really needs to be, covering this story, needs to be all over it. And I said something to them that I said, actually, what you're describing is very difficult to do. Here's what I mean. People are always saying what black-owned media should and should be doing, but a lot of people don't understand the nature of the business. The fact of the matter is, you don't necessarily have a lot of top reporters at many of the black-owned media outlets because we're not bringing in the money to be able to hire them. You can run it down, Ebony, Essence, Black Enterprise, Blavity, I can go on and on and on. You don't have significant reporting staff. What you do see out there are people who are writing these stories and they're just aggregating content. And as I keep saying, that the problem with aggregating content is that when you do that, you also then begin to push out false information. So, perfect example. Somebody said to me, well, you know, look at Essence, they did a story. Okay, and this is not to pick on Essence and pick on this particular reporter, but it's a problem. So if you look at the story that was posted on Essence, Sean Diddy Combs' homes raided in connection with federal sex trafficking investigation. Investigators have interviewed numerous accusers in connection with accusations of assault, trafficking, and the distribution and solicitation of narcotics and firearms, sources say. Okay, got it. So when you now read the story, it is by a Revea Ruff, and I don't know who that person is, if they're male or female, but I want to walk y'all through why these type of stories are problematic. So when you go through the story, you see how they're quoting Fox 11 Los Angeles, okay, describing the raid on the home. And then you see them saying that two of Combs' sons have been handcuffed. Then they go, it says, handcuffed and detained by authorities during the search, but these reports have not yet been confirmed. Well, why are you reporting it? Then when you go through the story, they're quoting the Homeland Security, saying Homeland Security describing what took place. It says the federal department said in a statement released to news outlets. Okay, well, I don't understand why Essence didn't get a copy of the statement, so they don't have to attribute it to news outlets. And so then when you go through here, it says, via CNBC, a source with knowledge of the situation reported that federal authorities have interviewed 3 women and 1 man in New York regarding allegations of sexual assault, sex trafficking. Interviews with 3 more women are forthcoming. Here's a problem with that. That's not your source. So what you're doing as Essence, you're putting a stamp of approval on a source from CNBC who you don't know. You don't actually know if this is true. The point here is, y'all, I'm not defending Diddy. I'm showing y'all the problem when black-owned media takes and aggregates content from other sources that you are not familiar with. So to quote a source from CNBC, when typically in media, you want to have 2 sources that confirm information. The information that I reported to you about the sale of Revolt, I got from 4 sources. 4. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. So then when you go through this story, you sit here again, you see them talking about the Cassie lawsuit, blah, 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 the lawsuit. Then this is the problem for me. You see, they quote the attorney for Cassie. He said in a statement via CNBC. And that's it. Nowhere in this story do you see anywhere where it says so-and-so told Essence. Nowhere in this story do you see Essence call Diddy or reach out to Diddy and his representatives to get comment on the story. Yesterday, when the raid took place, again, we're following the story. What's my first instinct? Call Diddy. 7:32 p.m. Eastern yesterday, this text message, because there are all these reports saying he's flying to Bermuda. Are you in Bermuda or the United States? Any comment on Homeland Security raiding your homes? I'm live on my show. That's journalism. And so the problem that I have is that what we are seeing right now, we are seeing black-owned media and other folks run with any story, no vetting, no fact-checking, no determination if it's true or not. So this is why it is a danger for black-owned media to aggregate content. What happened to picking the phone up yourself? What happened to calling yourself? We should not be slapping our bylines on stories when all we're doing is rewriting somebody else's work. This is not the first time that I've called out black-owned media and black-targeted media for aggregating content. I've called out The Root, NBC News, Blavity, News One, Black Enterprise, and others before. And so what I need people to understand is when you're out talking about what black-owned media should be covering, you should then be asking, do we have the resources to actually do that? Are we using freelance writers, or do we actually have staff writers? And the fact of the matter is, you do not have the reporting chops in most black-owned media places that you're used to. Urban One is the largest black-owned media company, the largest. They own 50-plus radio stations, TV One, My Clio. They own Interactive One. And I can tell you right now, very little news, very little reporters. And let me be clear, this is nothing against young journalists, but having somebody young being paid $35,000, $40,000 rewriting articles, that is not reporting. That is not journalism. Black people are not served when this happens. So here's the problem when Essence does this, or The Root, or The Griot, or anybody, is when you rewrite a story and stick your byline on it, you're giving the black-owned media stamp of approval to everything in the article. So black folks then read the article and go, oh, gotta be true. And they run with it. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at today and look at how many people ran with the story of Revolt being sold. Numerous folks ran with that story. It's not true. So when you do that, so here you go. Hollywood Unlocked. Diddy has reportedly sold Revolt to TV to an anonymous buyer. Network is still black owned. And what are they doing? They're quoting TMZ. Stamp of approval. That story, I'm telling y'all, is factually wrong. Same thing. If I go over here to, let's see here. I'm gonna pull up another outlet. I'm checking to see if they ran with this story. Boom, Shade Room. They're quoting Philip Lewis, a journalist, who's quoting TMZ. Same thing. Quoting them. And I get it. The story's wrong. But look at this here. I'm gonna show you. 65,000 likes, 5,883 comments on the story. That's what you see right there. I didn't show you that for Hollywood Unlocked for their story. Let me pull that back up. Their story, 735 comments, 4,378 likes. Okay, so that's their story. So if I go over here to, let me see here. If I go over to, give me 1 second, I'm double checking. Hold on. So, Jasmine Brand, know them well. They post a story, it's the end of an era. According to a report from TMZ, Diddy is no longer associated with Revolt. 6,775 likes. Again, 17 comments on here, okay? Quoting them. All right, I'm gonna do one more. And the reason I'm going through this, because I'm trying to show y'all what happens when stuff is reported and then it's passed on through black-owned media, and people see it and they go, oh, it was in the Shade Room. Oh, it was in this. Well, perfect example. Baller Alert, same thing. Headline, Revolt TV has a new owner. Diddy sells all shares. Read more, balleralert.com. It's wrong. All because they're quoting TMZ. TMZ is not always correct. And so black-owned media, pick up the damn phone and call somebody. Actually verify, check something. Not a single person here would like for somebody to do a story reporting erroneous information. And so we've got to understand that black-owned media owes it to black people to not just report anything white media reports. Perfect example, before I go to my panel on this. The Washington Post did a story that essentially said that Tamika Mallory, Carmen Perez, Bob Bland, and Linda Sarsour had been run out of the Women's March. It wasn't the case. They were term limited. They couldn't run again. They didn't get voted out. They didn't resign. They were term limited. But guess what happened? News1.com, Blavity picked the story up. I saw it and I called both of them saying, take that shit down. It's wrong. How can you be a black-owned outlet and you don't try to call Tamika or Carmen or Bob or Linda? I remember the Washington Free Beacon wrote a story about Biden administration handing out crack pipes. It was a BS story. Black Enterprise rewrote it. I emailed the ownership and the editorial leadership of Black Enterprise saying, your story is wrong. Why are you rewriting a BS story from a conservative outlet which was designed to actually cause misinformation? And lastly, and I'm walking y'all through this, when the Associated Press reported that the Biden administration cut funding to HBCUs by $35 billion, Newsweek picked the story up, blew it up on their cover. Black people, activists, and all kinds of different people, and I'll say it, I remember Jamal Bryant, Tamika Mallory, both had posted it on their socials. Hey, take that shit down. It's wrong. I said, they got it wrong. We covered this, so you know what happened? I knew the story. First of all, when Biden was running, he said the amount of money they wanted to give to black and Hispanic serving institutions. I want y'all to understand how misinformation works. So then when AP writes the story and Newsweek writes the story, they say the cuts to HBCU funding. Black folks lost their minds. First of all, he pledged the money to black and Hispanic serving institutions. Well, guess what? When he introduced the first bill, it was a $10 trillion bill. The full $35 billion was in the bill. Congress then was like, yeah, we ain't spending $10 trillion. So it got cut to $5 trillion. Then it got cut to $3 trillion, then $2.5 trillion, then the $1.5 trillion. Then Manchin and others said that's still too much money. So when they say Biden cut it, no, he proposed it. Congress is like, we ain't passing a $10 trillion bill. I dare any of y'all to Google it right now. You'll see it. So if you initially proposed a bill at $10 trillion, and the Congress says, no, we ain't going for it, and it get cut to $1.5 trillion, that means $8.5 trillion got cut. It stands to reason that the HBCU and Hispanic serving institution money is going to get cut. But guess what happened? The Newsweek story went everywhere. And we spent 3 weeks breaking the story down, showing you why it was factually wrong. This is the mistake that black-owned media cannot make. We cannot report news. I don't care if it's Diddy. I don't care if it's Jay-Z. I don't care if it's about HBCUs. I don't care if it's about Vice President Kamala Harris. We owe it to black people. And we owe it to all those black people that are on my wall in there that started black-owned media. We owe it to Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells Barnett and Robert Abbott and A.I. Scott and Charlotta Bass and John H. Johnson and Chuck Stone and again, Ethel Payne and Alice Dunnigan and Louis Martin and Earl Graves and Ed Lewis and on and on and on to get it right for our people. We cannot be repeating what white media says and take it as fact. Because when we do, we're doing a disservice to our people. Go to my panel. I'm going to start with you first.
Yeah, you know, we just got to be very careful that we create this fertile ground for disinformation and misinformation. Because when we do, you know, we do it to the own detriment of our own people. We know that many folks in the media world focus on the sensationalism. And, well, you know, many folks will do anything for likes and retweets and all these other types of things, even sharing information that they know is false or that they haven't verified. So we just have to be very careful, especially in the time we're living in, because there are those individuals who will feed that misinformation so that they continue to deconstruct our communities, both our trust and the set of actions that we need to be able to move forward in a positive direction.
John Quell?
You know, to add to what was just said, you know, it's interesting that with all of the blogs and a lot of the Black-owned media, not only is it just about the likes and the comments, but it's also just about who can get the most followers. And also, you know, just wanting to report the scandalous nature of something. Even if we can get back to reporting what are the actual facts that are going on and not trying to sensationalize or scandalize everything. And furthermore, that goes back to Cardi B, right? Where she had to sue Tasha K, I believe that's her name.
Yep.
And she sued her for defamation.
And won $4 million.
Yeah, and
I think it was $4 million.
And then after that, and then who followed suit behind her was the comedian Kevin Hart. He then sued her. So also, not only do we need to be careful to report facts, right, and to protect our community, right, because media is one of the most powerful tools that exists. It shapes the entire world's perception of us and our community.
It was $3.4 million, not $4 million. Go ahead.
And furthermore, when Black-owned media, when you are calling to get the facts of our own stories, don't try to extort the individuals either, because then that precipitated Kevin Hart then suing her because he was given some demands that if he didn't pay a certain amount, that this story was going to air. So don't do that either, right?
All I want, and again, when I did last night that I was trying to walk people through, because it was hard for a lot of people to understand it. And also today, I was trying to walk them through the economic reality. I was trying to walk them through what happens economically. I was trying to explain to them when Congressman Eleanor Holmes Orton had the General Accounting Office do a report over a 5-year period. The federal government spent $5 billion on advertising. In that 5-year period, Black-owned media got $51 million of the $5 billion. Let me slow that down. I need everybody to understand. Over 5 years, 2012, 2017, I need everybody to understand. Here's the deal, Gavin. Gavin, $5 billion was spent on advertising by the federal government. Black-owned media got $51 million out of the 5. All Black-owned media combined, as everybody, got $51 million out of the $5 billion. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty came to me and she said, we come out on a CBC meeting, there's nobody in the black press out there. I said, Congresswoman, we can't afford to pay somebody $75,000 to $100,000 to cover Congress. I said, but if $1 billion is spent every year with Black-owned media, and Black-owned media got 10% of that money, that's $100 million. Let's say we got 2% of the 10%. Let's just say 2% of the $100 million. It's $2 million. I've said it. With the recent layoffs of BuzzFeed News, of The Messenger, LA Times, Wall Street Journal, Vice, I could hire a newsroom staff. I need everybody listening. With that $2 million, I could hire a newsroom staff of 10 top-notch reporters that would be the baddest black news staff in America. If just us, if we only got 2 million of the 100 million. In the business, $340 billion was spent last year. Today, in New York, last 2 days, yesterday, today, tomorrow, Magna, major ad agency, they're having their upfronts. It's supposed to be their diversity upfronts. Now, let me explain. We kicked the thing off with a black-owned collective. Then it went from black-owned media to diverse-owned media. So now everybody up there presenting. We were told that, oh no, they're not gonna be presentations, it's gonna be these panel conversations. My guys at Urban Edge Network there, it's presentations. Were we invited to present? Nope, we weren't. Who controls the money? The agencies do. 24 years ago, BET was sold, Gavin, for $2.4 billion, the assumption of $400 million in debt for $2.8 billion. Black-owned media was getting 1% of all ad money in the year 2000. 24 years later, it's 1%. So what I say to black people, if we're gonna be sitting here talking about what black-owned media should be covering, then we need black people saying, let's fight for the money. Let's challenge these companies when it comes to the money. Let's challenge Magna and every single company that they represent to ensure that they are providing funds and advertising dollars to black-owned media. This, Gavin, is why we can't hire staff. It's because we are not getting the resources that white media is getting, and we're making do by rewriting other people's stuff.
Yeah, and Roland, it's really hard to follow what you just laid out and what Mustafa and John Quell added. I want to first thank you, Roland, for clearing all of this up through your commitment to journalistic excellence. You had a lawyer on last night when you were breaking down this story, and I was watching this segment, and while a whole host of other news outlets were reporting the salacious rumors and jumping to conclusions about what the raids yesterday may have entailed, you and your guest, were very clear in conveying to all of your viewers that we could not jump to conclusions, that it was imperative for us to listen to the authorities, for us to, not conclude anything other than what they had said. And so I want to thank you for doing that. And I want to thank you for refocusing this conversation to where I think it ought to be, right? Which is on the money, on the resources. And there's such clear parallels to the conversation we were having earlier, and to the conversation you had last week, the ongoing conversation about the underinvestment in HBCUs, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's important for us to understand the ways in which all Black institutions remain underinvested, and it's intentional. And I'm really tired of, our community always sort of being last on the order of funding. I think it's a call to action. It should be a call to action. I think we're going to be talking to an entrepreneur later tonight who's launched a toy business right in the Midwest. And so I think it should be a call to action even for us in our community to remember we got to start businesses so that we can go to Black-owned media and we can pay for advertising, because we're not just going to be able to rely on the goodwill or good nature of those outside of our community. So I think it's important for us to remember that too. But when it comes to this, when it comes to HBCUs, when it comes to so many other Black institutions, I'm just tired of this underinvestment. And that's me sitting here saying this. For you, Roland, I cannot imagine the what you have overcome in building out your platform. And I want to just thank you for giving us this space to talk about this issue and so many other critical ones that other outlets are not covering. And it goes back to what John Quell and Mustafa were saying, which is we live in this 24-hour news cycle. We live in a culture in which collectively we all just kind of don't want to read, right? We see these snippets on social media. We hear these sound bites. The media latches onto that sensationalism. And as a community, we have come to distrust, right, the mainstream media in a lot of ways. And so we then turn to the Black media, and we have such trust in Black media. Again, same can be said about our Black institutions, HBCUs, Black doctors, right? All of these different institutions. And so, as you said, right, Black media owes it to our community to make sure that we don't cut corners when it comes to our journalistic standards. But of course, like you said, this all comes down to the money. And I'm tired of our community settling for scraps.
Well, I just, the thing for me, and I'm going to show y'all something in a second. The thing for me, Mustafa, that, again, and I take this personal, is that we have to understand when we post it, people believe it. So you got to be careful reposting something that, or putting your byline on and aggregating and putting it up in the Washington Post. I don't care if it's the Washington Post or the New York Times or Wall Street Journal. They can get it wrong too. And that's the point. People are trusting us. And so this is not about, oh, hey, my sources got me the information about the seller revote, but it's a perfect example. What is being reported is wrong. The sale is not final. It's wrong. Facts matter.
As you said, we are trusted voices. We are ambassadors in many instances to our communities, and of course others are as well. And when we don't live up to the hashtag Black excellence, then we're doing a disservice to our people. We're doing a disservice to our community, and we are allowing those who would continue to try and deconstruct our communities, to dismantle our communities, and to make sure that our communities are not moving forward in a direction that is going to be helpful. We're helping them to be able to achieve their aims and their goals. So we have to check everyone. We got to double, triple check, the information, but we also got to be mindful of how we're sharing that information and how it will have impacts inside of our community. So we have a lot of work to do, and I hope that folks, as was shared before, actually start to read. I know you're tired. I know you're trying to put food on the table and keep the lights on, but we've got to make sure we're doing our own due diligence to make sure that what is being injected into our communities is something that is helpful and not something that will continue to hold us back.
Final point on this that I need to address right now, and you heard me say it earlier, that Magna Global they've been having their equity inclusion upfronts. Now, when we started this Black-owned media collective, we were very clear. We were talking Black. We were not talking everybody. But what you've seen how this thing has morphed into, oh no, it's equity, it's everyone. In fact, I'm sitting here, I'm going through emails right now, and I'm looking when we first started this, and I'm looking at emails going back to 2021 when they had their media day. And and so it was like, their media equity up front. 2021. Do y'all realize that it'll be 3 years? It'll be 3 years in March or May. We haven't gotten a single dime from a Magna Global client. But I want to show y'all what happens when we focus on Black-owned and then how they try to shift it to put everybody in the same category. This is the video on Magna Global's Instagram page right now. Watch this. hope y'all didn't miss that. Did y'all see the key thing right there? I'm gonna play it again just to make sure that y'all didn't miss it. And I'm gonna go down my panel to see if each one of them caught what I caught. So let me play this again for y'all. What did you see, Jonquil?
Well, I can tell you that it is not a Black-owned collective at all anymore, right? So they said that it started with that being the idea, and essentially it's using the word equity and inclusiveness to essentially show that it's open to all companies that need their resources. So there's no distinction between the different companies anymore. So which once was for African American publishers, that's no longer the case.
Gavin, what did you see?
Well, I noticed that they had a long laundry list of everyone else and then put Black last. I noticed that. I also noticed, to me, I would summarize it in one word: performative. I noticed how they had the videos and the pictures of our people scattered throughout, and performative is what I would reduce it down to. But what I noticed was that they listed a bunch of other groups and put us dead last.
Mustafa?
All you have to do is look at the beginning when they said the best black publishers. I don't know if it said Black-owned publishers. So that gave you the idea that everything you're about to see is going to be representative of folks who come from that group. What I saw was the same thing that's happened with the civil rights movement, where we do the work and then others actually are the ones who get to benefit from it.
All three of you are correct. That is exactly what I saw as well. So you say it started with Black, but then you show everybody and you got Black last. So we carry all that water. But here's the question I would love for Magna Global to answer. What is the percentage? And again, for everybody else, that's fine. All the rest of the folks that were mentioned, the other groups, that is not my concern. What I want to know, Magna Global, what is your Black number? What is the percentage of your contracts that Black-owned media is receiving? I don't want to talk Black targeted. I want to hear Black-owned. Now, on their channel, Instagram, they have a spotlight on Urban One, Black-owned media company. Used to work for them. TV One, they own Reach Media, Tom Jones' company, so they all work for them. But my problem is when I see these equity upfronts from these agencies where we spend money, go to New York, present in front of them, but what money actually comes back? I can tell everybody watching right now, everybody who's watching, in 3 years, Black Star Network has got nothing from Magna. Oh, we put together PowerPoint presentations. We participated in the equity upfront in 2021, wasn't invited in 2022, wasn't invited in 2023. My guys at Urban Edge Network, did they present? Yep, they presented last 3 years. How much they get back? Nothing. So who's actually benefiting from these equity upfronts? I need Magna Global to tell me, what's your number? Are the companies that you represent, and tomorrow's show, I'm gonna list those companies. Because here's the problem, y'all. These ad agencies are representing billions of dollars from these companies, and it's performative what they're doing. Oh, a few Black people may be getting some money, and a little bit others, but no. We gotta go beyond a few. So I'm showcasing this to everybody who's watching, so y'all now understand this right here is why we can't hire staffers. This right here is why we can't hire reporters. This right here is why we don't have more producers, because we're being frozen out of this, and there is the veneer of inclusivity. How are we the equity up front? Okay, we know in the business, 80% of all, this is the last point before I gotta go to break. Y'all, 80% of all advertising money is allocated during the upfronts, which are happening right now. They happen in April, they happen in March, April, May. They're happening right now. Then they have what is called a scatter market. Or you have three. This is upfronts. You have a secondary market in September, but then you have the scatter market. You know what scatter market is? November, December. Hey, we got some money left over. Hey, can we throw something at you? Mm-hmm. Do you know where most of the money that we've gotten from ad agencies came from? Scatter. They call us, they call Urban Edge Network in November and December. Hey, what can you do for $75,000, for $100,000? Now, they gave out $7 million earlier, but here's the scatter money. That's where black-owned media largely gets money, in the scatter market. We don't get the money allocated up front. So now I hope people understand, when you're like, why aren't we seeing black-owned media do this, do that? If you ain't got access to the dollars, you cannot hire the people. And so it doesn't cost me anything. You know what? And last point, last year, you know what Magna Global did? Magna Global invited Carlos Watson of Ozy to present. He was already under investigation by the feds. 2 weeks after he presented at Magna up front, he got indicted. We weren't even invited. And our numbers are real. We now know that his numbers are fabricated. But see, what they do is they pick and choose who they want to invite. And maybe they say, oh, he too noisy, he too loud. Well, guess what? I ain't got nothing to lose. So I'm going to stay noisy and stay loud. And Magna Global, I'm tired of sending emails. I'm tired of having fake meetings. The question is, when are we going to see business? And until we do, I'm going to keep calling you out. And next, I'm going to start naming all of the companies you represent, and I'm going to show their logos. So our audience knows who we are giving our money to, who ain't sending money back to us. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hello, I'm Marissa Mitchell, a news anchor at Fox 5 DC.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, in Marketplace, we feature black-owned businesses. They're doing a lot of different things. Joining us this week is the president CEO of Just Play Entertainment, Leah Avery, joining us out from Chicago. They have created a game. It's his party game for the culture, Hip Hop Charades.
Remix?
Here's their video.
On the real, that's what it is. Okay, so when things are not going good with your music, whatever, I'm about to put this. Okay, if I'm going somewhere by myself, I am solo. I'm about to be about there like Castro. I'm not fake. Real? Okay, but I grew up in the hood. Real.
Or guess the acronym and win 2 points.
You need red?
All right, then. So, Leah, tell us about Hip Hop Charades. How did this come about?
All right, so Hip Hop Charades is a family-friendly game that brings families closer together. You have to outguess your opponent with the most hip-hop lingo to win. And I came up with the idea. I was very shy growing up, and games would always help me get out of my shell. And I recall when I was a little girl, my dad had a tire in the backyard. I had an idea to create a carnival in my backyard and charge my neighbors 25 cents to play games like throw the ball in a bucket, like on the Bozo Show. So I've always been creating fun experiences and realize it's my passion and my purpose. So I love bringing family and friends closer together.
You know, and again, look, black folk, we love games. We talk about getting together with the family. And again, having culturally relevant games is important.
Very, very. A mom even told me that she purchased the game and she had a troubled relationship with her daughter. And after playing Hip Hop Charades, it brought her daughter closer together. So it's all about bridging that gap, and also it's multi-generational. Grandma can play with the grandkids. We have those growing up black sayings as well as the new sayings that you hear nowadays that's trending and social media.
Absolutely. Questions from the panel. Gavin, you're first.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm curious, I'd love for you to talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit. We know that Black entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs face, tremendous barriers when it comes to starting businesses. You've, definitely navigated that and had a lot of success so far. And it's a shame, obviously, all these obstacles we face, because I feel like we have so much brilliance and creativity and ingenuity in our community. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What's enabled you to have the success that you have, besides just your sheer brilliance and intellect and all of that? And what message do you have for younger Black folks, younger women who want to do what you're doing?
You know what? I've definitely had some struggles. My first game came out in 2007, and it was called Catch My Drift. And we did the guerrilla style marketing. We were in local malls, Forest City. I grew up in Chicago, and we were selling the games, and it did great. But it was very hard to take that next step. The income, the income revenue wasn't there for me to scale the brand, and I had to come up with different ideas to reach a wider audience. And what helped me grow was hosting game nights. We would host game nights in Chicago once a month, and we'll play Hip Hop Charades, but also other games that brought back nostalgic memories like musical chairs and Battle of the Sexes games. So even to this day, there's still a struggle. But after COVID, during COVID, it was great for all Black card game creators to really blow up, and that's what's really been happening. And a lot of my peers that has these cool games, we actually stick together. There's enough money for everyone, so we realize, if we stick together and host events together, we can grow together instead of feeling like there's competition. So we've been able to co-partner and co-brand with other businesses to help us grow as well and reach a wider audience.
Jonquel?
Well, first I want to say I'm so excited about your Hip Hop Charades. I'm a big cards player. I wanted to know specifically, it's interesting how your game is transgenerational, right? Where you can include children as well as the grandparents as well. A lot of card games are either specifically really adult focused or more children focused. So what inspired you to make that blend?
That's a great question. Over the years, I would realize that, the cards that I would come up with would only resonate with people that's my age. And, going to trade shows and dealing with a direct to consumer, I realized a lot of people may say if they're older, I'm not going to guess that, or hip hop charades, I'm going to be bad at that, so I wanted to change that and make them feel like you can play it too. You'll feel comfortable guessing these phrases too. And that way you can communicate better with your family. So that's what it's all about, is bridging that communication gap and, telling everyone all the coolest phrases that's out nowadays. As you realize, it's hip hop culture, but it turns to pop culture once it gets to TV. There are certain phrases you hear nowadays that we heard it years ago, but now it's all of a sudden new, or they call it pop culture. So we're just trying to keep people up to date in these streets on all the hip hop lingo and keeping our conversations cool.
Mustafa.
Congratulations on the success so far. I'm curious. I really appreciate you finding ways of bringing family together. I've got family all over. I'm curious, is there any way to have this on a multimedia platform? Is that a part of, maybe some of the steps down the road? What's the ways, if I have family in Kansas City and Kentucky and a number of other locations, how can we use this?
Yes, great question. So yes, we are working on getting some investment dollars together so that we can actually turn Hip Hop Charades into an app. Most importantly, we also have an idea to create a Just Play, what is it called? A Just Play arcade. So it's going to be an app, but not just playing hip hop charades, but a whole plethora of games created by us, for us. So working on that and working on getting investment dollars for that as we speak. And then we also host events. We host virtual events as well, and also in person. So we can bring the family together, host a birthday party online, and create a fun experience to remember.
All right then, folks, it is Hip Hop Charades. Where can people check it out? And of course, you got a discount for our Roland Martin Unfiltered viewers?
Absolutely. You can go to hiphopcharades.com and put in promo code RMU. You would get a 15% off discount if you purchase a game and or event. We're actually in Chicago, Atlanta, and Nashville. So we also travel and host team building events as well, and special events to celebrate special occasions.
All right, then. Well, Leah, we appreciate it. Good luck with Hip Hop Charades.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, folks. We come back. Deion Sanders says, my son ain't going to some NFL teams. He damn skippy. He right. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
I'm Dee Barnes, and next on The Frequency, we're talking about the rise in great Black literature and the authors who are writing it. Joining me will be professor and author Donna Hill, discuss her writing journey and becoming a best-selling author.
I always was writing, but I never saw anybody that looked like me in the books that I was reading.
Plus, her work with the Center for Black Literature and next year's National Black Writers Conference. That's right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
watching right now, when you got out of college, you decided where you want to go to work. Gavin, Jonquel, Mustafa, likely were like, hey, let me look at offers. What part of the country I want to work in? Do I want to work in a small place, a mid-sized place, a corporate place? Do I want to work in a major company? Do I want to sit here? Hey, do I want to work in a warm climate? Do I want to work in a cold climate? Do I want to work what part of the country? All those different decisions were made. But if you're an athlete, wherever they tell you you get drafted, that's where you go. Baseball, basketball, football, the top revenue sports. Now, tennis, you can turn pro early. Golf, you can turn pro early. But the team sports, nah, you gonna go where we tell you to go. It's called the draft. Just like the military draft. Well, Deion Sanders was on a podcast, Gillian Wallow, and the subject came up regarding his son, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback for the Colorado Buffaloes, Travis Hunter, defensive back and wide receiver for the Buffaloes. And this is what they said.
Where do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
Top 4.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speaking
1.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. Now, all this is subjective because I know where I want them to go. And let's not forget Shallow, okay? But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's gonna be it's gonna be an Eli.
Now, what he's referencing was when Eli Manning came out of college, his daddy was like, yeah, the San Diego Chargers have the #1 pick. We ain't going to San Diego. We ain't going there. So, Chargers didn't pick him. Well, that was because he made it clear it was a trade. When John Elway came out, the Colts had the draft pick. He's like, yeah, I ain't going to Baltimore. No, that ain't happening. I ain't going to Baltimore. So it was a trade with the Denver Broncos. When Bo Jackson came out, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were awful. They had the #1 draft pick. He said, Tampa Bay, y'all draft me, I'm going to play baseball. Tampa Bay drafted Bo Jackson. Bo went and played baseball. So what Deion is saying I know organizations, I know systems. This is where I want my son and where I want Travis Hunter to go. Now, a lot of folk have taken offense to this because he dared say that. He dared say it. Well, I think he's right. I remember watching an NFL draft. Was it Zach Levine? I think it was Zach Levine. Man, when they had a pick, Zach Levine, if I find it, y'all look up, I think Zach Levine was supposed to get drafted. I think the Timberwolves drafted him. My man was pissed when he got drafted. I think it was Zach Levine. And the video was, he was, awful team and it's cold as hell. And my man was like, hey, I ain't trying to sit here and go to that particular place. Those things, they've happened. I think it was Zach Levine. It was some player. We've seen it before. But they basically force you to go where they tell you to go. And then in the NFL, they sign the rookies to a 5-year contract. 5-year deal. So unless you trade it, you'd have 5 years. There's not a single person watching that will want to be at a job 5 years and you hate it. You don't like the city. You don't like the company. You don't like your employees. The facilities suck. You ain't staying there 5 years. That's what happens in sports. So, Mustafa, I'm with Deion 100%. Hell no. We're going to tell certain teams, don't pick my son because he is not coming to your city. I'm with Deion.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get where Deion's coming from. You know, the beauty of having a parent like Deion is that he's an informed advocate. That means that he understands the system. He knows the various cities. He also understands that when you're becoming a professional athlete, that you have maybe 3 or 4 years for the average career for most athletes. So you got to make sure that you're making the right decisions for you. And that often means that, you know, just because somebody says you're going to be in a certain city, that might not be the right one for you, might not be the right program based upon your skill set. And it can also play a big role in how long you actually are in the league, whether it's in the NBA or, you know, it's in the NFL or whatever the situation might be. So I'm glad when people have these informed advocates who will stand up for them and help them to make the right decisions, because they have lifelong consequences, either positive or negative, that come out of it.
I mean, here's an example. Jonquil. When Vince Young came out of the University of Texas, led them to the national championship, Jeff Fisher did not want him at all. But Adams, the owner, did. Now, here you got, the Titans used to be the Houston Oilers. So Bud wanted him bad. Bud on the team. Owner made the decision. Fisher hated Vince Young, gave him hell, was constantly dogging him. Vince Young's married to my cousin. And Vince Young has talked about how he had to deal with that. The reality is his career was stunted because he had a head coach who hated him, who didn't want to draft him at all. Now imagine if Vince Young goes to a place where the coach wants him. Totally different environment. Happens all the time. There are coaches who don't want certain players, but management drafts them. Now they got to deal with the coach. Now you got attitude. Happens all the time. I believe that Deion is absolutely right. He wants his son and Travis Hunter, who he looks at as a son, to be in the best position to be great. And what he's saying is some teams we're not going to play for. And I think more athletes should do this because they should not be forced to go to places just because of a draft.
Well, look at what we all have just seen play out in the media with Russell Wilson, right? The coach with the coach there in Colorado couldn't stand him, right? Wanted him, spoke out publicly against him, saying he was too focused on his family. Why is that? Why is that something that someone would speak ill of or publicly against him? They wanted him to return portions of his contract, millions and millions of dollars, and really just made it miserable for him. And we're used to seeing Russell Wilson being a star, you know, so certainly whatever environments, the environments that you're placed as directly correlates to your success there. Secondarily, as it relates to Deion Sanders, I mean, Deion Sanders is a legend, right? There's only one Deion Sanders. There's only going to be one Deion Sanders. So not only does he have the knowledge, the skill, the connections, but also, lastly, ever since these NIL deals have come along, college and high school athletes have more leverage now, right? A lot of them are millionaires. And so I do think that does put them in a different position than maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right?
Well, first of all, a lot of not millionaires. But to your point, it used to be, man, they broke, they got no choice.
Correct.
Now it's a different conversation because, I now don't have to take a deal for financial reasons. And you're absolutely right. That's what's changed the game.
Correct.
Gavin.
Yeah, more of this. And I want to expand this out even further, right? Like this is an example of Black athletes harnessing the leverage that they have, right? Because we know there'd be no NFL, there'd be no NCAA without Black athletes. It also reminds me of the news we heard recently where Derek Johnson, the head of the NAACP, is now telling athletes at the college level, I guess high school seniors who are looking to play in college, to stay out of Florida. Now, look, I don't know how effective right now that approach is going to be when most athletes decide where to play based on where the best opportunity is going to be. I don't blame them for doing that, for considering, where they're going to get the most playing time, where they're going to get the most investment of resources. We just got to decide how serious we want to be about using our leverage, right? And John Quayle is right. Athletes have a lot more leverage now with NIL. What we also got to make sure we do is we got to make sure, going back to our earlier conversation, that our HBCUs are well funded. Roland, you keep beating the drum on this, which is that the Biden-Harris administration has called out the underinvestment, the underfunding in HBCUs. Where we are right now is that Black athletes should not have to choose between going to a school that, or, at the college level or the NFL, right? Going to a team, I'm going to talk about college, going to a university that's not, going to support them as athletes, as students. That might be in a state where we've seen a bunch of really regressive laws being passed, but where they might get really good investments, or going to an HBCU where they're going to get the nurturing, they're going to get the support, right? But that doesn't have the resources. So we got to close that gap, right? And I'm really glad, Roland, that you brought this up as a topic for tonight. A little known fact about myself is that I spent my first 2 years out of college working for the NFL. I learned a lot, saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, as you can imagine, of the sports industry, especially the NFL. But the one clear takeaway that I had was that as a community, again, I'm expanding this out, we got to have a seat at the ownership table, right? In the professional leagues, there are 0 Black owners, controlling owners, I should clarify, in the NFL. There are 0 controlling owners in the NBA after Michael Jordan, sold his share in the Hornets not too long ago. There's 0 controlling owners in, the MLB. Sheila Johnson, Black woman, right? She is the governing owner right now of the Washington Mystics. We need more of that, right? When you look at the sports industry writ large, we need to have more Black owners, well, a Black owner in the NFL's context, and a critical mass of Black owners who have seats at that table. And what does that mean? It's going to take more people like the guest we just had, who started her business and is growing her business. It's going to take more people like you, Roland. When you own the Houston Texans one day, just remember me, give me 1 ticket, please. But it's going to take more of that. And so I commend Coach Prime for his comments. I commend this mentality, this shift, and recognizing and understanding the leverage that Black athletes have. There'd be no NFL, NCAA without us, without them. And so I really look forward to seeing, as a community, athletes across the board looking to harness their collective power and leverage.
Let me show you this here real quick here. You talk about doing something. I hope the NCAA does something about this here. Utah head coach Lynn Roberts was at a news conference where she talked about racism that her team faced when they had an NCAA game in Idaho. Watch this.
We had several instances of some kind of racial hate crimes towards our program, and incredibly upsetting for all of us. And, you think in our worlds, in athletics and in university settings, it's shocking, in a there's so much diversity on a college campus, and so you're just not exposed to that very often. And so when you are, it's like, and you have people say, man, I can't believe that happened. But, racism is real, and it happens, and it's awful. And so for our players, whether they are, white, black, green, whatever, no one knew how to handle it, and it was really upsetting. And for our players and staff to not feel safe in an NCAA tournament environment, it's messed up. And so we moved hotels, and the NCAA and Gonzaga worked to get us in a new hotel, and we appreciate that. But yeah, that's what happened, and it was a distraction and upsetting and unfortunate. This should be a positive for everybody involved. This should be a joyous time for our program, and to have kind of a black eye on that experience is unfortunate. We had.
NCAA, don't play any more games in Idaho. Mustafa?
Yeah, I remember when I was a college athlete, and the first time that I ever had to deal with racism as an athlete was actually in Tennessee. When we started the show, I was actually thinking about that. The NAACP, the NCAA, maybe them also have to do a better job. They have to understand these dynamics that are going on continually. From the beginning, when we first integrated into sports to today, that there are still both the mental and the physical and the spiritual impacts that happen because of our exposure to racism. So for younger people, especially who have not yet been able to develop the skills to be able to deal with those types of things, it can have long-term impacts. So I'm hoping that we continue to put pressure, that we make sure that they continue to evolve, and that we hold them accountable. Because when you're an athlete, and if you do something that's not to the letter of the law that they've put out, then there are ramifications. But unfortunately, those associations who are often over top of athletes don't often have to follow the same sets of rules and don't have to continue to evolve and grow.
Jonquil.
I too was a college athlete. I played college basketball, but however, I went to a historically black college. So all the schools I played against, everybody was black. So I didn't have to deal with it in that context. But number one, I'm glad that she did address that in a press conference so that it is getting national coverage as it relates to how athletes are still being treated. And frankly, just historically, just what athletes have had to endure. My father is a NCAA college basketball Hall of Famer. And, even growing up during the era of what he did and what he had to go through as an athlete, he went all the way to New Mexico State to play basketball and avoided Duke and some of the other schools because of how historically how athletes were treated. And it's still something that is still going on today, and it's something that we cannot ignore.
Kevin?
Absolutely. I want to reiterate what both Mustafa and Jonquil said. And it's important to remember the history here, right? You take players like Fritz Pollard, who was one of the earliest black athletes in the NFL and also who was the first black coach in the NFL. Nowadays, we have the Fritz Pollard Alliance, an organization that's dedicated to increasing the diversity of black coaches and other front office staff right across professional sports, or at least the NFL. And, when he was in the league back in the day, he and so many others couldn't stay at the same hotels as, the white players, couldn't dress with the team in the locker room, couldn't eat, with the rest of the team in restaurants. And so when we see these things, these instances like the coach just described playing out today, I just think it's important to remember the history here and remember that obviously what we're seeing now is nothing new, but it helps us keep in context, right? The importance of, remembering this history and it should instruct us and guide us now toward the future that we need to create in sports. And again, to what I said before, I do think that for us to truly see that change, it's going to take obviously more, black folks in position of leadership across sports, but also, like I was saying before, at the ownership table who can truly, use the power, of the purse and truly, make the lasting change that's necessary, in sports and in society broader than that. And there are obviously unique barriers within, the sports industry that keep that from happening, but there are a whole host of barriers that exist, outside of the sports industry, which is why, we have yet to see, more black folks have the capital to be able to, afford these increasingly expensive teams. And so, it's going to take a full court press, to use the sports analogy there. But I appreciate the coach calling out that. And it's important for us to keep the history in mind as we try to steer toward a better future for sports.
All right, folks, look, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much, Kevin, Jonquil, and Mustafa. Thank you so very much. Folks, that is it. We will see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Don't forget, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, check us out on our Fast channel. You can go to Amazon Fire on Amazon News. You can go to, of course, Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, and Amazon Prime Video. And of course, you can check us out. I'll get my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. Folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All the momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?